Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November Metagame Book Club. This time, we're going to be focusing on uncovering the lore and more. Yes, we rhymed today. So, first of all, I want to give thanks to all those helping hands, everyone who's sort of helping behind the scenes and getting things together. A big shout out to the ISTE Games and Simulations Network for helping support the book club as well as taking on some of the administrative burden of running it. So a lot of the people talking today and helping us out will be be members of the ISTE Games and Simulations Network. Also want to thank the Inevitable Trail Guild. As always, with the book club, they're doing a lot of things with helping us out with the in-game tours that we will show you and giving us different aspects to think about in World of Warcraft. So you'll also see them contributing in the discussions in the Google community. So thank you guys. Also, our guests today are myself. I am Chris. We also have Kay, and we have Blue. Well, we kind of have Blue. Face Rig unfortunately went down and took out his camera. So we also have Trish as well.
Hello.
And we have Christina.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have Tanya, better known as Grid, but as you can see, she's mobile. So it's one of the wonderful things about Hangout is that you can pretty much watch this anywhere. So even while you're on a walk. So thank you all for coming. So, first of all, an overview. We're going to talk about, what is the book club about? How do we get started, or how do you get started, I should say? And we'll talk about the intro to track 2. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Blue to talk a little bit about what the book club is about and how to get started.
Hi guys, thanks Chris. My name is Blue. If you haven't heard, like I said, my camera's a bit down, so it's not the most exciting screen for me. So hopefully the guys will change my camera to something else. Well, we're at the Metagame Book Club, our second iteration for the fall 2014, and this will last a little bit shorter than last time. It's going to be the duration of 3 weeks, so it's going to go from November 1st all the way to about I believe you guys said it was the 24th.
Yes, the 23rd.
Yeah.
Yep.
23rd. And we will have we'll be reading the wonderful, wonderful book, Rise of the Horde by Christy Golding. Now, this is based on a game, so it's paired with World of Warcraft, but it's not exactly from them, but it's an exclusive from Warcraft from Miss Christy Golden. We're also going to be pairing it up with Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. So we'll be doing some tie-ins. We're just doing a chapter or two because it really helps tie in some of our main key figures in Rise of the Horde. And we decided to pick this book because it was our prelude to Warlords of Draenor, the new expansion that's coming out for World of Warcraft later this month. So hopefully it'll give you a better, deeper understanding of what Warlords of Draenor is all about, since this is the beginning bulk of how the Horde and the Alliance really started and how the Orcs broke away and they started to become this indomitable force that begins to travel all throughout Azeroth. Okay.
Okay, so everybody, here's what we'll be doing. Most of the discussion will occur in the Google Plus community, and each week we're going to have a Track 2 hangout on Saturday, and I would say it'll be around noon. Sometimes we're a little bit late, like today, but most of the time we are going to try and make it right on time. Okay, so to get started, first of all, go to our Google Plus community. Go ahead and join. Then post your intro, and then go to the Metagame Book Club Google site. And that's going to have the listing of the readings and some additional materials and really all the background. Now, this is a book club and not a MOOC and not a course. So you'll be seeing it's a lot more loose and it's a lot more informal. Now, for social media, what we'll be using is #metagame, and because this is all about game-based learning, go ahead and you can throw the #GBL on it too, because then it means you're sharing out to people beyond just the metagame. Okay, so our 2 books for Track 2 are Rise of the Horde and The Power of Myth. Now, we decided to use The Power of Myth because and pairing it because we thought it would make it really accessible. Now, some of the time, if you say you would have to go to your administrator and say something like, I would like my students to play World of Warcraft, or I'd like them to play World of Warcraft and we can read a fictional novel that goes with World of Warcraft, they might be a little hesitant. So we suggest pairing it with the power of myth. And we're not the first people to do it. Actually, out in Arizona, in Goodyear, Arizona, David Flack and Kim Flack did a wonderful job of pairing it with their students. Now, Kim actually works for PBS out in Arizona, and the cool thing was she was actually able to do it as Power of Myth was one of the rebroadcasts of Power of Myth, which makes it exceptionally good. Now, if you're not familiar with the Power of Myth, it was actually done in 1988 with Bill Moyers interviewing Joseph Campbell, and there were 6 one-hour sessions, and this was broadcast over PBS. Now, here's my suggestion. Go to your local library, and Cam can pipe in if she feels like it too, because Christina is our librarian. Go to your local library, because when I tried to go and find the hardback illustrated copy of The Power of Myth, because I wanted the full experience, I couldn't find it anywhere on Amazon, which didn't make me very happy. So instead I got the paperback. But it's likely that your local library has the beautiful illustrated copy. It's also likely that they might have either the CDs so you could listen to these interviews, or the DVD. So,
and Kay, I will jump in and say I did in fact find the beautiful illustrated hardback version at my local library.
Cool.
So you can too.
Yeah, and I mean they have like there's Mandelas in it, and there's all the gorgeous artwork that goes with the myths that Joseph Campbell is talking about. So I mean, I remember getting that from my library, you know, way back when. And it was just gorgeous. So I'd suggest everybody, you know, whether it's your school library or your local community library, go and grab that. Also, you know, a lot of us multitask, and you can grab the CDs, and you can go ahead and hear the interviews. Now, The Power of Myth is a transcript of those interviews. Now, Joseph Campbell has written many other books, but when we had our book club people vote on which they wanted to read, our book club voted on the transcripts. Now, The Power of Myth, some things that we're going to say about it is it's narrative theory, and it's one narrative theory. And what Joseph Campbell really does is he looks for patterns. Now, we will tell you that he does take a Western view on this, so that you can be aware of that. And the other thing, one of the main reasons we chose it, and I will go over to my slide so you can see a little, is because World of Warcraft takes place in a fantasy, or what they call a sword and board. Okay, so there's a lot of like people who are knights and warriors and things like that. And the thing about World of Warcraft, it does take a Western viewpoint, and a lot of the massively multiplayer online games do take a viewpoint of the hero, of going through the hero's adventure, of that you start out very weak, you start out having to go through quests and trials to become well-rounded, and a lot of the popular ones like Guild Wars and Elder Scrolls Online really come from the Western viewpoint, which is really what Joseph Campbell talks about in The Power of Myth. So that's also another reason why we chose Power of Myth. Now, we're going to skip around, so you know you can start reading at the very beginning if you feel like it, but we're going to skip around, and we're going to pair it with what seems to work well with the next portion. And for the next portion, I will turn it over to someone else so we can start talking about the fictional piece.
All right, thank you, Kate. So, as we mentioned before, the other book is Rise of the Horde by Christy Golden. So, fun little cover there. Green Hulk smash figure there. that's going on. So some things to know. Now, one of the things that we want to let everyone know is that the book does have some assumptions of things that it alleges that you know, that you're aware of, because this is written specifically for, number one, a game. Oh my God! So yes, it's, as we've said multiple times now, it's based on a game. So the game is World of Warcraft. So this is the foundation for everything. So the book does assume that you have some background in World of Warcraft. But if you don't fear, because we actually have a couple slides here to help give you that background that you need to sort of put people in places in perspective. So first of all, it's the game, World of Warcraft. And really at the time of the book, right, what you're looking at here, this is specifically in the transitionary period between what we used to call Vanilla WoW, which is the original online version of World of Warcraft, and the second expansion, which is Burning Crusades. So that's sort of where this book storyline is. So Vanilla WoW, when you hear people say Vanilla WoW, what they mean is the original portion of World of Warcraft, which is the first 60 levels. You can only level up to 60, and that was it. Players who talk about Vanilla WoW, it's a lot like people saying, back in my day, I had to walk uphill both ways. I had to wait to level 60 to fly or get a mount, and I was happy for it. So it's kind of fun. What is an MMO? So World of Warcraft is of the genre of a massively multiplayer online game. Some examples of how large these are. These are very large online games, lots of people playing, not necessarily simultaneously, but still a lot of people playing. So you can see EVE Online is another MMO, has about 500,000 subscribers. World of Warcraft has 7.4 million subscribers in its latest release. And of course, most people are familiar with Minecraft. That's why we threw Minecraft in here. Minecraft, in comparison, has 100 million registered users, and roughly about 14.3 million of those registered users are actually paying to play the game. So that's sort of give you a feel for the size of these games. They are rather large groups, and they're able to go ahead and keep a lot of people together. So the other pieces that we want you guys to know is that this book really is, as we talked about the hero's journey, is that really in the Powers of Myth, is that really it is an origin story of the Draenei and the Orcs. It really addresses past events. So these are events that happened past the game, World of Warcraft. So it's sort of filling in that canon, filling in the lore holes that are there. So really that's what this book is about. So it addresses past events. Our new expansion coming out, as Kay mentioned earlier, Warlords of Draenor, will actually provide an alternate timeline of these actual events we're going to read about. So that's one of the reasons why this book really sort of is top of mind for a lot of gamers who are playing World of Warcraft, is because really what you're going to see is you're going to see the game as it releases its new expansion. It's going to come up with an alternate timeline for these events that we're going to read about. And as we talked about before, this whole thing is exploring the beginnings of the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance that rages across Azeroth. So if you're playing the game, these are groups that are there. So what is the Horde? What is the Alliance? What is Azeroth? That's where we're going to in these next places. So places and people. So what we have here is we have Draenor. Draenor is where Rise of the Horde will take place, and this is sort of a map representation of what you see here. And Cam will show a little bit of that once we talk about Thrall. But we're going to jump over to Azeroth. Azeroth is the name in which the World of Warcraft takes place. So usually you spend your time in Azeroth. But one of the things is on my camera, this is what Draenor looks like for most players when you experience Draenor. In World of Warcraft, it was called Outland. And there's the Dark Portal. Ooh. So basically, this is what has happened to the landscape of the Orcish homeland in our time round, in the actual traditional World of Warcraft feel. It's desolate, it's barren, there's not a whole lot going on. But this is just one of the zones. There are many different zones that are here in Outland. As you can see from the slideshow here. There's quite a bit in the map here. You see there's a lot of different things here. One of the big things about Outland that everyone found interesting about Outland was the floating islands, chunks of Earth just being suspended up in the air. You see a really nice skyline here in Hellfire Peninsula, and these are the different areas that you see in Outland. There's a lot of different interesting architecture, but this is a world in ruin. This is a world that has been shattered. And so what you'll read about is you'll read about what the world used to be, and you'll read about what events caused this shattering of Outland or Draenor, as it formerly was, but now we all know it as Outland. So that's one of the things you're going to read about in this book, is sort of seeing what's going to happen, and not only the changes in characters, but also the changes that happen in the environment itself. So you'll be able to see that as well. Azeroth is much more common for most WoW players. It's where you spent your first 60 levels in World of Warcraft, and then basically you're going to go ahead and continue on with playing around with Azeroth. So you can see the different expansions here. You have Kalamador, you have Eastern Kingdoms, and you have Northrend here. The only place that's missing is the new expansion, the latest expansion, which was Mist of Pandaria, which was would give you another island here. So that's Azeroth that's there. So now let's go ahead and look at the people. So first off, we have orcs, and so Kay's going to talk a little bit more about the orcs.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm going to talk much about the orcs, but I'm at least going to show you an orc. Okay, the orcs are one of the main races that is part of World of Warcraft, and where I currently am is the orc capital city, which is Orgrimmar, which is very much a war fortress. And I'll give you a quick flight around. And you can take a bit of a look here, and as you can see, this looks like, oh, there's no question about it, it's a war fortress. There is nothing, there's basically nothing else going on here. There's no beautiful cities, there's no capital. Now we're in the goblin slums. So that's the refugee area, and then over here we're going to go over to the Valley of Spirits, and this is really where the trolls hang out, and also the torrent. But basically, orcs are considered very warlike, and as you're reading the story, you figure out why why they're like this. But Duratan is the land, and it is named after Thrall's father. And as you can see, it's not a hospitable looking place. It basically, if you take a look at it, it's basically a desert, not a lot of resources, and there's a reason why it wasn't inhabited before them. So this is the land that the orcs currently live in. So that's all I have for them. And if somebody else wants to chime in, go ahead.
Thank you, Kate. Next up, we have. So we have a slide error here. So let me quickly. Next up, we're going to have Cam talk about Thrall.
Okay, so I am actually in the beta version of the new expansion, and that was where I was able to find Thrall. Here, he is the narrator for Rise of the Horde, and he's speaking about these events from a later time period. So he's really reflecting on the events that happened with the orcs and the path that they end up traveling. His father is Duratan, who is I would say, our main hero of Rise of the Horde, who is struggling with the changes that the orcs go through. And so, and Thrall also is at a period of time the war chief of the Horde, but not during the book. It comes later. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to say about him. If anybody else wants to add about Thrall, those are the main things I wanted to cover.
Okay, thanks, Cam. No, that's totally fine. So thanks for giving us a show there. And actually, what Cam, you talk a little bit about where you're at?
So, oh yes, so I'm in. Let me bring up my map. I'm in the world of Draenor, and I'm on Frostfire Ridge right now, which is just one area of Draenor where the Frostwolf clan lives, and that is the clan that Duratan ends up being the chieftain for. But this map I'm showing now is the map of all Draenor, which we saw before, and I'm in this Frostfire Ridge area. This area of Nagrand is going to be very important in the book, as well as this area of Talador, which is not called that in the book, and also the Shadow Moon Valley. Those three areas are going to be very important in Rise of the Horde. But this map is showing Draenor as we will see it in the expansion.
Thanks. All right, next up, we have the other people you'll be meeting. You'll be meeting blue people, so you've met green people, but you'll find out in the book that they actually weren't green. And also now we meet the blue people who stay blue the entire book. These are the Draenei or the Eredar. And as you read the book, you'll find out what Draenei actually means. The Eredar is actually the race that's there. As you can see there, they have lots of. They're very blue, like they like their tentacles. Also, you can look at my screen here. I am actually in an area in called Exodar, which is where the Draenei currently reside on Azeroth. And right next to me is someone who you'll become very familiar with, and in this week's reading will be Valen, is here, right next to me. But you can sort of see that the Draenei are all around, and these are sort of just the goodness and light people. So it's kind of interesting to see the dynamics that you'll read about between these two races. But the Eredar they do play an important history in the lore of World of Warcraft, and this is another piece that the book assumes that you know. So we're going to go ahead and move more into the creation style and the creation side of things when it comes to World of Warcraft. So Trish is going to talk a little bit about the Titans, as well as talking a bit about one of our main antagonists.
Okay. First off, one of the things that you first hear about vaguely in the game is the Titans. And the Titans were considered the progenitors of the universe. They were the ones, they would be mostly closely aligned with like the Greek gods or the Roman gods. They're the ones who sat up above everything. They brought order to the chaos. They watched over the universe and really were not involved with what was going on different worlds. And there were two types of Titans. One was the Bronze Titans and the other was the Platinum Titans. Sometimes you'll see remnants of the Titans if you're playing World of Warcraft and you're in some of the raids like Ulduar or Uldum. You'll see like the big feet, or you'll see mechanical workings. You'll see remnants of the Titans different places all through the game. And they were the ones who sort of put everything together. But one of the Titans was known as Sargeras, and he is the one that we really come to meet in the book and is the antagonist that gets everything started and stirred up. But his story is very much, he started out as a very noble, he was called the Noble One, or the defender or protector of the Pantheon, where all the Titans lived. And his job was to stamp out evil. And what we discover is that in this process, he became overwhelmed with depression and doubt at the fact that evil could never be completely destroyed. And that was what led him to becoming the being that he is now in the story. And he is the one who started what becomes well known in the game and in the book as the Burning Legion. And it's because when he turned, it looked like he was on fire and he was burning. And so that's where the term Burning Legion comes from. But he originally started as a Titan and then has turned into something else. And so that is what goes on with the Titans.
Thank you, Trish. So now we're moving on to what happens after the book. So once you get done with the book, really sort of what you'll see at the end is it really does introduce you into, like I said, the Burning Crusade. So really it introduces you to these last two chunks, which are the Alliance and the Horde. So these are the two most common factions that we all are familiar with. The Horde is made up of the Orcs, the Forsaken, now known as Undead, Tauren, Trolls, Blood Elves, and most recently Goblins. So really interesting thing about the Horde side is everything is very primitive, everything is very rough. These are definitely the outsiders or the misunderstood classes. I will say that World of Warcraft is one of the first games that allowed you to play what was considered the bad races. Because remember, prior to World of Warcraft, it was always you always had to be a human, an elf, a dwarf, and you're always good, and you're always good and fair, and everything else. And then orcs were always the evil guys; they were the bad guys. What World of Warcraft did is they sort of flipped that around, and they allowed you to play either side. And what you find out is evil is relative to your position. The people who are your enemies, if you're an orc, you're not thinking orcs are your enemies, you're thinking humans are your enemies, because there's some stuff that happens that are up to future books. The alliances are your traditional fantasy races. So humans, night elves, dwarves, gnomes, draenei, and now you get werewolves in the form of worgons. And so they are I like this right up, this is why we included from up here, the illustrious alliance, proud and noble. So, but what you'll see here is that really with the alliance is that everything's a bit more pristine, it's a bit more polished. Their engineering and architecture is more what you would see here in the real world, whereas the orc races, everything has spikes on it. Everything has, everything. There's spikes everywhere, spikes and horns everywhere. That's what you sort of see is the architecture of the Horde and of the orcs. So those are just some different things you see. Lots of sharp edges, lots of things to poke you with. So, as we mentioned briefly, is that really what happens after the book ends is that it ties you into the second WoW expansion, which is the Burning Crusades. And that's a piece you see there. So what you saw earlier whenever I was out in Outland was the second expansion pack that was released, and that was part of Burning Crusades. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Blue to talk about Week 1 readings.
Hi guys, welcome. So we'll be really going through chapters 1 through 7, and there are lots of people and a lot of races being thrown at you at once. We covered the main deals of the orcs and the draenei, but some key people you're gonna need to be following along is definitely Thrall. You're gonna have Prophet Velen. Velen is the leader of the draenei, and they have been wandering around trying to find a place to stay. They have been known as the exiled, and they've been wandering through the universe as it was for a place for them to settle down. And they've made their home in Draenor. And at first we can see that the orcs and the draenei are able to kind of work together, but then we get Sargeus, who's very upset and angry. And he throws in his demons, all putting in bad words about the Draenei, telling the orcs that the Draenei are planning their downfall. And so the orcs begin to grow their animosity, and we're going to start that when we get to chapters 6 and 7. But some really good things. So there are two ways to really do this. We have the Kindle version, or you can have the physical book yourself. The Kindle version, like I said, we'll be posting both what you will find in the Kindle version or whatever ebook reader we're doing. And then if you have the physical book, we'll hopefully line up the pages. I know we had that issue last book club because the differences between the page numbers were kind of confusing, especially when we had both the Kindle version, we had a PDF version available, and than people actually had physical books. So we were trying to line up all the pages as best as we could. But when people have different version numbers and edition numbers, it made it a little difficult to decide. Hopefully, we'll get everyone on the same page. At least this time, it's very, very straightforward. It's chapters 1 through 7 by next week. It's a very good and easy book. We can do this. I know you can.
Okay, so along with what Blue just told you about, for the Power of Myth reading, we'll take chapter 5. And chapter 5, because it really seems it'll really work well with chapters 1 through 7 with the Rise of the Horde. I put 2 little clips, video clips, also there on the page with the readings, and if you are going to be listening to it on CD or DVD, then it would the chapter 5 is called The Hero's Adventure. So that's what you'll be looking at. We might put up some more additional readings or materials or videos, because Tanya was even saying that she kind of cheated and she found a couple little videos that told part of the story. So we might ask her to put those there, so you know you can have a little bit of reinforcement. But for the Power of Myth, will we really be talking about next week? We'll be talking about the hero's adventure and how you start, and the trials and the tribulations, and how you go from accepting the quest to accomplishing the quest and becoming that well-rounded individual. So that's all I have here. So I will hand it over.
All right, everyone, we're sort of wrapping it up now. So parting thoughts that you have that won't give the rest of the story away. So what are some of your parting thoughts that you have that you want people to either think about or look at for the book, for the coming chapters that they're reading? Anyone? Well, it is the first time around, so I think that everyone's worried about giving things away. So basically, the biggest thing is just things to think about. Is that as you're reading through the book, just sort of look at how the interaction happens. Look at the different cultural aspects and the environmental aspects. That's one thing I can definitely say is pay attention to those as you read. Just sort of get a feel for the book as well. It is a pretty quick read from chapters 1 through 7. So feel free to post discussion points in the Google community. We look forward to seeing you guys there. Make sure you post your intros this week, and we'll all be there to say welcome you guys in. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks again to our partners, ISTE's Game and Simulations Network and the Inevitable Betrayal Guild as well. So, and thank you as well to my guest panel who have been here today and shared your expertise. We look forward to having you guys on again next week. So we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.